Hey everyone, thanks so much for tuning into Channel Maven podcast. I am joined in this episode by David Mandell of VentureVoodoo. He is a personal friend and coach that I have been working with for years, and more specifically around Spark Your Channel and the launch of Spark Your Channel. Initially, this conversation was focused on how to start a business and run a business and what the trials and tribulations of entrepreneurship are and bring. And we still talk about that, but we take it to a whole new level and it dives deep. And just appreciate everyone's kindness and comments and knowing that entrepreneurship is no easy feat. And it's something that I highly suggest and highly apologize for if you've taken that route. It's an adventure. Hope you enjoyed the episode. David, thanks so much for coming. You're our first. So we had Channel Maven TV, and now we have the Channel Maven podcast. You're the first official podcast. Tell everyone a little bit about yourself, why you're sitting in that chair right now.
Aside from the fact that I'm just really old. So, New Yorker, born and raised. Grew up in and around New York. Early part of my career was there. Grew up in the agency world in Manhattan.
A madman.
And truly kind of the tail end of the madman days.
I bet.
I think about the shit went on now, and I'm like, no way.
Yeah.
Is that even a remote possibility today? Kind of scary, but interesting to have seen it. Yeah, a couple of different agencies, marketing, PR stuff. Started an agency with a friend of mine, sold that to a bigger one, and eventually ended up in-house. Deloitte & Touche is a big client of mine. They hired me in-house to help launch the Deloitte Consulting brand in the mid-90s, and spent a bunch of years flying around the world trying to launch and manage the Deloitte Consulting brand. Lovingly refer to it as the 5-year death march.
Yes.
Incredible experience, but
and entrepreneurship within a huge corporation.
Yeah, kind of like building new processes and disciplines within a very large company. But left there in 2000 to go to the startup world, and I've been doing startups ever since.
So you're a masochist and
just a deep, stupid masochist. Also have been mentoring startups since, for almost 20 years now. So I've kind of been involved with Techstars since it started in 2007. And even before that, I've been mentoring companies. So mentored probably, 500 or so companies over the past 15 to 20 years.
And that's really how we reconnected. So we're part of the same group of friends. And I remember the first time we met as a coach entrepreneur relationship, we both went, oh yeah, you were at with the other and knew each other's significant others.
So it's nice, actually. But yeah, just been doing startups and been CEO a couple times, been founder 4 times or so, and old enough that I've been through a lot of really, really bad examples, and myself, my own included, not just other people.
But that I think really draws. So if I met with a coach who had only had 1 win or only had 3 wins, they don't totally get what's going on when I'm freaking out.
Yeah, I think the founder CEO role is one of the most misunderstood roles.
And
if you have not done it and you haven't been there, it's perceived as, this is a cool life and people are throwing money at you and you're the big boss and you
get to go ski all day
and the big bucks and life is good and you speak at conferences and you fly around and those of us that have been there know that that's complete bullshit. And it's truly one of the loneliest, most stressful, most difficult jobs you could really imagine. And that's really why I started coaching, because I realized these people don't realize that they're not alone.
Right.
And they think that there's something wrong with them, that they're struggling. And no one is telling them that, no, this is the shit that everybody deals with. It's not just you. And this is the job.
And I think I totally agree. So Channel Maven just turned 11. That was a very different entrepreneurial venture than Spark Your Channel, which we just announced 2 weeks ago.
Congrats.
Thank you.
I'm very excited.
I would not be where I am with Spark if it weren't for you. So thank you for that. And it's very, talking to both solution providers on the channel side who are business owners as well as other startup business owners. It's true. You have to put such a brave face on it and everything's great and everything's working. And you go to do a demo and all of a sudden your Wi-Fi goes down and you're like, what the actual am I supposed to do right now? I can't I can't do a demo to this client that I've been trying to get in front of, or money and all of it back and forth. So is it something, I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. If somebody asked me when I was 6 years old what I wanted to be when I grew up, it was the boss. Like, that's what I would say. Mm-hmm. And I didn't picture a cute little office with exposed brick and boulder. I pictured like the Mad Men, up on the 28th floor somewhere in downtown Boston.
Glass looking down at the traffic. And
exactly.
Saying, oh, look at those little people.
On a conference call. No stress at all whatsoever. But do you think there's something that genetically or hereditary that people just either are entrepreneurs or aren't? Or do you think it's something that can be bred and cultivated?
So I'm going to actually talk to your first comment first, and then I'll kind of get to the second question, because I think they're both really important. And so you talked about you got to stand up and put on a happy face, and then you deal with stuff that's not working, and you kind of, you gave a challenge that's sort of manageable, right? Like, oh, my demo's not working, right? Like,
right.
That's real fixable stuff. But I kind of call that the schizophrenia of the CEO, where we are forced all day long, literally all day long, to be two people all at the same time, right? And you're talking to potential investors or potential customers or even your employees a lot of times. And you have to get up there and put on a happy face and say, yeah, we're doing great. And here's how everything's working, and everything's going exactly to plan, ha, 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 right? And you've got to look like, this is great. You need to join us, or you need to keep working, or you need to come work with us, or give us money, right? Because this is awesome. And then literally as soon as you stop that conversation, you turn and your whole face changes, and you realize the shit you're really dealing with, right? And it's incredibly difficult. And one of the things I like to say is, like, one of the challenges of CEOs, you're almost never allowed to be happy, because it's not that good things don't happen. Good things happen all the time and all day long, and that's why we do this. But always at the same time, something stressful and incredibly challenging happens. And like, you'll close a big round of funding and then find out your best friend, co-founder, CTO is leaving.
Right.
Or, like, you'll make this great hire you've been working on forever, and then your board hits you up with, hey, we're not really happy with how it's going. We need a special meeting. Or just, like, all day long, you're dealing with that binary way of existing.
Right.
And it's a really hard way to be as a human. And it's really challenging, which kind of leads to the second question, like, do you think people are born to be entrepreneurs? And I certainly think certain people have more of a genetic or just inborn desire to do it. But I don't think you're either an entrepreneur or you're not. I think being an entrepreneur is about learning.
Right.
And mostly it's about learning about yourself. And you have to be able to learn how to do it. And that's, if you spend the time and you reach out and you find good people to help you do it, you can actually get pretty good at it. It's never easy.
Exactly. I would agree that the challenge is always there, the emotional battle, and I'm doing it right now, right? Like, we're on a podcast, and I'm like, this is, the horrible my Wi-Fi went down. When, shit gets real, and maybe because Boulder is such a hub for entrepreneurs, but you and I both know a lot of people who have struggled with depression, and some who have taken their lives in the last couple of years. And you have to think, what were they going through where it felt like that was the only option? And certainly depression and a chemical imbalance play into that. I have certainly had people in my family struggle with that. Luckily, for one reason or another, I don't go that route. I go this would be really embarrassing and this would be really hard. But yes, the day-to-day of, I'm hiring someone and I haven't closed that round of funding yet, and I have a great pipeline, but that could all go away in a day, I always joke that Channel Maven, for me, when we talk about the entrepreneurial journey, a lot of times people do this, right? It's a roller coaster.
It's a roller coaster, yeah.
For Channel Maven, that was month to month for me, because we knew what we closed the month before, we knew what we could deliver the month before. And then we
sort of predictable service business.
Totally.
Not that it's not easy, definitely hard, but different cadence.
Spark is like hour to hour, not minute to minute. Yeah. But definitely hour to hour, like, oh my gosh, that was amazing, and oh no, what am I going to do now?
Yeah, I mean, you're just trying to keep so many balls in the air at once, and some of them inevitably fall, right? And you have to look at both of them and just, the trick is to play the long game, right? Keep your eye on where you actually want to get and what you're doing. And, what you were talking about before is very real, and it's very challenging. And, and I'm not a doctor, and I can't tell people what to do, but I can tell you what I've seen. And one of the biggest dilemmas that entrepreneurs have that I spend a lot of time talking to people about is simply understanding that you are not your business. And it is really, really difficult when you are out there literally busting your ass every day to build a company, and you are everything, or I should say the company is everything to you at the time, and everybody is relying on you, and your investors are relying on you, and your customers are relying on you, and your employees are relying on you, and oftentimes your significant other, your spouse, your kids, and everybody is relying on you. And the pressure is massive, incredibly intense. And the inability to remember that you are not your business makes that even more challenging, because, look, we know the odds, right? The odds are always against you. Always against you. Like, I'm not making that up. That's the fact.
What is it, 10% of entrepreneurial vendors?
I think that's even optimistic, right? And
make it.
So the challenge is remembering that you are not your business. And we conflate this emotion of our company not succeeding with us failing. And we take it incredibly personally, and it becomes who we are. And if our company doesn't work, we think we're done. We think we're failures. And getting over that emotion and realizing, like, no, that's bullshit. Simply the fact that you started something, that you did something that 99.999% of the rest of the people in this world will never, ever do. And you started it, and you created something, and you hired employees, and you created value, and those employees learned new shit every day. And they're better people because of it. And you helped customers, or you created something. And whether that company succeeds or not, it doesn't mean you failed.
Right.
You have absolutely moved up the stack just by doing that. And one of the best ways to kind of get your head out of your ass in that situation is to remember this is about the long game. Right? And when my second company crashed and burned, in a glorious fashion, it was very public. It was a big company here in Boulder. We had big reputation. The company did
employees,
a lot of employees, a lot of investors. We'd raised a lot of money, and I was convinced I was going to have to leave Boulder. My company failed. I failed. I was a mess. Why would anybody work with me again? This is stupid. What right did I have thinking I could even do this in the first place? And I was clinically depressed and had no idea what to do next. And a couple of days later, one of my first investors and another investor that I had a lot of respect for, we got coffee, and he said, "Okay, what do you want to do next?"
The vote of confidence, just in having that conversation and knowing that you weren't, that was everything.
Yeah. And these are people that know this is about the long game.
Right.
And that was an incredible learning point for me. It was because I treated people the right way, and I was a good human, and I did the right things. And even though the company didn't work, they're like, okay, this happens.
But it's so hard not to think that way. It's so hard not
It's incredibly hard not to think that way.
Even when you're in it, not to think. I can walk into investor meetings with every fact and figure they want, with a demo that is stellar, and still while they're talking to me, I'm like, they think I'm a moron. Like, why would they ever give me money? This idea is crazy. And I can give them all this feedback, and it's that self-talk that you just have to get out of your head.
You really have to partition your brain. And there's a great book that I just finished called Deep Survival. I think Lawrence Gonzalez was the author. And there's a quote I pulled out of it. And it's all about who survives life-threatening situations and who doesn't, and why.
Yeah.
And his quote was, it hit so hard. His quote was basically like, and I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember the specifics, but it is okay to understand you're in an incredibly scary situation. It's okay to be scared shitless. It's okay to understand that emotionally you're a freaking mess. What's not okay is not to move forward. And as an entrepreneur, you really have to partition your brain and say, okay, these are all the things I'm scared about, and really scared. And I have every right to be scared about these things because they're very real. Right. But I can't let them stop me from moving forward every day and figuring out what to do next. And that's really the key to a good entrepreneur, is understanding how to function under stress and emotional duress. Because there's very few times as an entrepreneur, as a founder, as a CEO, where you're not under emotional stress.
Yeah.
And it's I hate to say it, but a lot of the times with the companies that I mentor, very early stage companies that are struggling through their first fundraise and hiring a few people and trying to figure out how to get to the next level, and you can see the stress on their faces. And they look at me and they're like, when does it get easier? And I have to look at them and say, it never gets easier. It only gets faster.
Yeah.
And your goal is not to not deal with these challenges and these stresses. Your goal is to start dealing with bigger challenges and stresses. Because the bigger the company, the bigger the stresses and the bigger the challenges, and you're always dealing with them. And that's the life.
And you hit on something before. I mean, I have such an amazing executive team on the Channel Maven side, but one is operations, one is project, and one is sales. Mm-hmm. So when I come to them with an overarching problem, I'm getting opinions, and really good opinions, but on their very segmented. Talking to other entrepreneurs is the only thing that I have found is really helpful. And you and I both have a friend, Nicole Claros.
Nicole is an animal.
I remember emailing her and saying, she said, how's it going? And I said, well, I vacillate between this is amazing and everything's going great to what the f am I doing? And she wrote back, don't listen to the what the f do I think I'm doing voice. That's the voice that holds people back from greatness. Everyone has that voice. It comes from your reptilian brain that tells us to sense danger. I'm out in the open. There could be a tiger. There are no tigers here, and nothing you do will kill you. If it doesn't work, it might hurt you emotionally, but it won't kill you physically. So that voice isn't serving you. Most people let that voice hold them back from success. Don't be that person.
Exactly right. She's a great example.
And hearing that and hearing you, like, oh, I'm not alone. Everybody feels this way or goes through this or gets rejection or gets, really good news followed by even worse bad news. And yet we still do this.
Yeah, we do it because the alternatives suck, right? And this is a very stressful life, but it's the life that drives us. And so one of the single most important pieces of advice I give every startup, and they ask me, if you could give people one piece of advice, what would that be? It's actually really direct and specific. When you are starting a company or running a company or have been running a company or whatever it is, find good mentors. And I don't mean people that can just come in and help you figure out marketing or help you figure out sales or help. I mean people that will take a phone call from you at 2 a.m. when you have no idea what to do and you have 3 days of runway left in your company and you don't know how you're going to pay your people and you're stressed about everything and you're curled up in a ball in the bed and all you want is for that bed to open up and swallow you whole. And they will take a phone call from you and they will tell you, don't be scared, don't be afraid. Be an animal and go eat them if you have to. Right. And get out of bed and go do it. And they're there because they know and they want to help and they understand what you're dealing with, and they're not there because their investment's going to get bigger, but they're there because they care about you and they want to help. And
that's hard. I feel like in the last 10 years, coaches, leadership coaches, speech coaches, the whole 9 yards have popped up left and right. I mean, I've been in this building in Boulder for 10 years, and we never had a therapist or coach or anything, and now we have 7 in the building.
It's a trend. I sense a trend.
But it's true. I mean, you have to decide, has that person been where I am or where I'm going? And do I like that person enough? I mean, I'll come in super stressed out and come downstairs and say, I just got off the phone with David. I'm better. It just...
Good.
It needs to be an actual, to your point, somebody you can just call immediately.
I mean, there's a lot of avenues of help out there depending on what you need.
Yeah.
whether it's tactical help or whether it's life help. And, there's some great resources out there, like Reboot does an amazing job helping you really go deep as who am I as a person and what does my leadership mean because of who I am. And I think that's a critical thing for a lot of real leaders to go through. But, the trick is finding someone that works with you well, right? Personalities are different. People are different. People like to work differently. So the trick is doing the work, finding people that gel with your philosophy and what you need and understand your emotional challenges.
Right.
And understand how to get through your emotional baggage, get you out of your own shorts, get you to realize that you actually probably do know what to do. It's just hiding underneath all of the anxiety and stress that you've layered on top of it.
Right.
And help walk you through those challenging situations because it all comes at you really fast.
And there's no formula. There's no first you're going to experience this, then you're going to experience that, and then this. It's all completely differently. And for some of the solution providers that we work with, it's not just based on their business, but it's also based on the vendors, the IT vendors that they partner with, and how if they shift their business. 20 years ago, we were all talking to the vendors about help your partners move to the cloud. That took them from a 40% margin on a $100,000 storage array to $500 a month. Figure out how to make that work in your business plan. Right. So there are a lot of external forces that we're all worried about and talking about and not talking enough to the right people.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like you really have no idea the things that you're going to face. Yeah. And people think, they read the press and they read the books and they listen to the news and they read TechCrunch or whatever. The truth is really sanitized stuff. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. Those are the things that people think they're going to deal with when they're starting a company. What they don't think of are all the real things they're going to have to deal with. Like you find out your best friend or co-founder has been embezzling from you for 2 years and you had no idea. Or you grow your company to the point where you've got an amazing leadership team, it's going well, and you're finally for the first time able to take an actual vacation and you set the whole company up so you can be away. And you take your whole family away and you're sitting on a beach day 2 of a 10-day vacation and you get a text that your CTO just passes away.
Yeah, it just doesn't.
That's real things.
And that's not something you're reading in an article or a book.
It's not something anyone is telling you about.
The day that you announce your new company, you find out that somebody in your family has had a traumatic brain injury and you just drop everything and go and sit in Denver for 24 hours to make sure that everyone gets to that person. I mean, there's no owner's manual. There's no guidebook to entrepreneurship.
There's no, this is how it's going to be. Yeah. The only way to understand it is to have people that have been through it, that understand, that are not blown away or surprised by the shit that you all of a sudden are dealing with, that you can't believe you were dealing with, and there's no way anyone else in the world has ever dealt with this. Right. And they have.
Well, this has been informative, if not emotional. I don't know that I expected us to take this route, but I'm so glad that we did.
Nobody expects that route, Heather.
Exactly.
That's the point.
How can people find you if they're desperate for a coach? Although I don't want you to get so busy that you don't have time for me. So take it easy, guys. How can folks find you?
Well, they can always reach me through my website, just VentureVoodoo.com, VentureVoodoo.com. But yeah, I appreciate the time, and I really appreciate the chance to make these things public.
And talk.
Too many people suffer with it in private.
It's something that I think the community here in Boulder has gotten better at. I mean, if you mentioned Reboot, Jerry Colonna and Brad Feld from Founder Group talk about it.
Man,
yeah, they're very good at being open. So thank you for bringing that to our community as well.
Thank you for building an amazing business.
Trying.
I hope you do. I know you will.
Thanks, David.
Yeah.